injury actually good for the city of brotherly love?
No, you can't argue it's good for the Sixers because Embiid's their best player. You don't lose your best player and then it's good for you. But could be good for Ben Simmons. You know, Ben Simmons, when I look at him, I think he's become really underrated, actually, because of his play in the playoffs last year. They exploited the fact that he can't shoot. But Ben Simmons is still really young. He's several years younger than Antetokounmpo. But their games are very similar. He's not quite as aggressive, not quite as good defensively, although a very good defender. Simmons is sort of like LeBron light, but with better handles. He's a 6'10", put the ball on the floor, explosive, amazing court vision, great passing, can finish at the rim. Like, Ben Simmons is kind of the Greek freak, but a couple years younger. But he can't do it with a big body in the middle like that. It's just, it doesn't, the two of them are somehow less than the sum of their parts. So I can't argue that this is good for the Sixers, Stephen A., but I do think it can be very good for Ben Simmons because it can open him up in a way that he can't be open with Embiid clogging the middle.
Well, here's the problem with that, and this is the reason I disagree with you. Embiid's not going anywhere. And if you're going to win, you're going to need Embiid. So any time that you have without him, it's an aberration, it's fool's gold, it's folly, because that's not your championship situation. What you need are the guys that you know you're going to rely upon to get there. Now, if Joel Embiid, for example, were to come back and you relegated him to the bench, or, you know, he wasn't going to be that major contributor and it was going to be about Ben Simmons and in pivotal moments, Embiid wouldn't be on the floor, okay, then it would make sense. But we all know that's not the reality. And since it's not the reality, you want to deal with the reality as much as you possibly can, particularly when you have a coach that still has something to prove. Brad Stevens outcoached Brett Brown last year. I like Brett Brown. Glad he got the extension. Look at what he had to endure in the process. He went through a lot. So I'm glad that they've got faith in him, okay, and they've given him an opportunity to steer the ship in the right direction. But it doesn't negate the fact that he doesn't have something to prove. Ben Simmons obviously has got something to prove. And by the way, he's been more aggressive. He's been going after it. He ain't scared of nobody. He's been in attack mode like a miniature Greek freak in his own light, the way he attacks the basket with fervor, Max. But the bottom line is Joel Embiid is a significant part of this equation. So
yeah, I mean,
anytime
ultimately,
that he's not a part of it, that doesn't work because that's not reality.
Right. No, you're right. I can't argue it's good for the Sixers. I just mean it points out to me that actually it's the reason I don't like the Sixers to get out of the East. When you stack up the talent, maybe they're as talented as anyone in basketball, really. I mean, except for maybe Golden State. They have so much talent on the team. But ultimately, I think Simmons has got to get away from Embiid. It's not that they're not both great or that they don't mean well. I don't like the way I think that they're going to be less than the sum of their parts based on each other's games.
I'm keeping them together for as long as I possibly can. I'm just going to get a coach that's going to work on Ben Simmons' perimeter shooting, not even three-point shooting, his perimeter shooting. I'm not letting go of either one of them because they're too terrific. There's no way I'm compromising
that. But I mean, of course,
team.
but that's assuming you can get equal value for Simmons back, but just in a different form of player.
I'm not doing it.
All right, let's keep it moving. A couple more things I want to get to with you guys before it's your weekend. Anthony Davis will take the court for the remainder of the season for the Pelicans, but the superstar power forward will be on a minutes restriction. Interim GM Danny Ferry met with Davis and told him the tentative plan is for him to play 20 to 25 minutes a game. Stephen A., is it good for the NBA that AD is on a minutes restriction now?
No. No, it's not. And for what I'm being told, it's the team's choice, not Anthony Davis. I don't like it one bit, and here is why. People walk through the turnstiles and pay to watch the team. And we all know when it comes to the sport of basketball, it's the individual players that are magnets for fans' attraction. It doesn't matter that Ben Simmons intends to leave. What matters is that while he's there. I'm sorry, I apologize.
Yeah.
Anthony Davis. It doesn't matter that he intends to leave. What matters is that if he's there, while he's there, will he ball if you let him? That answer is yes. And as long as he's going to go out there and ball while he's on the court, then you're giving the paying customer what they paid to see. That matters. Now, if he wasn't going to play, he's not going to play. But if he's going to play, why would you restrict him? That makes no sense.
Well, I mean, you restrict him because you're not going to make the playoffs. You know, if you're going to keep him, you want him to be healthy for next year. He's one of the signature stars of the NBA. And the idea that you're not giving the paying customers something to see, paying customers don't care about meaningless regular season games. They want to make the playoffs, or else they want to see a show that means something going forward. And
Right.
if the Pelicans really wanted to give the fans something to see, they shouldn't have engaged in what seems to me to look like a conspiracy against doing business with the Lakers. They could have had a brand new young core to add to Drew Holiday and company, and the paying customers could have seen something the rest of this year. They had decided not to pull the trigger on the deal. Now they have an injured superstar who you want to monitor his health. This is what they did.
Hold on. We got to get this out the way. Max Kellerman, and just answer the question. Are you a fan? Are you a fan at all? Because I can't believe what I'm hearing. You're trying to tell me you've never went to a game of any sport to see the athlete perform? That
no,
means
I will
nothing?
say this. No, I'll say this. I'm a Knicks fan from back in the day, right? I switched my allegiances to the Lakers when I moved to L.A. and did radio for the Lakers.
Don't remind us.
I will say this. If Patrick Ewing was on the trading block in his prime and he was hurt, as a regular season paying customer, I would not want to see the Knicks play Patrick Ewing in meaningless regular season games. Well, except that's not what they're saying, right? So the point. Go ahead.
I mean, he went for the MRI on his arm or what have you. But the bottom line is he was ready to play. The minute restrictions ain't him, it's the team because they know he wants out.
Right. Well, except that ostensibly he is hurt. And the idea is the Pelicans are the worst team in the league year in and year out at dealing with player injury. They lose more minutes to player injury than any other team consistently because it's cheap ownership that tries to double dip and use the New Orleans Saints medical staff, training staff for the basketball team. Okay, so if I'm a fan of that team, let me be a fan of that team for a second, okay? Do I want Anthony Davis risking injury when either he's going to come back and play for me next year, maybe to make the playoffs, or I'm going to dangle him as trade bait to get a whole bunch of stuff back? I don't want to risk that tradable asset. Why would I do that? To watch him play in a meaningless regular season game? As a fan, I'd want to protect the asset.